Sure. My name's Ezekiel Graham.
Okay, so where you come from?
I come from America, Florida.
Florida. Can you tell me your city? Could you tell me your city?
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine. What is the best thing in your city?
St. Augustine, well, has two really nice things, I'd say. The beaches there are really beautiful, and then we have a lot of old Spanish architecture from the 1600s.
Oh, all right.
Really beautiful.
So you raised it in there, okay. And how long have you been here?
In Japan, just over a year.
Just over a year. So what did you do before come here, Japan?
I lived in Korea for almost 7 years teaching English.
So what made you come to Japan?
Luck, mostly. I would come here on vacation several times.
Okay.
And I just happened to meet a professor at the University of Tokyo, and we got to talking, and he convinced me that I should try to apply for a program here.
All right.
And I was kind of sick of teaching English in Korea, so I decided to do it, and I got in, and
okay.
here I am.
So you've been teaching in Korean.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's different Japanese English and Korean English?
Difference between Japanese English and Korean English. Different kinds of pronunciations. Certain things are more difficult for Japanese, some things are more difficult for Koreans.
Okay.
And overall, I would say Korea's, or at least comparing Tokyo to Seoul, Seoul has a much higher level of English.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How the English taught in Korea?
Well, they start very early. So often kids will start learning English even in before kindergarten.
Before kindergarten?
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of hard.
And they take English classes in their public school, but then on top of that, 80 or 90% of kids also take a private lessons for English.
All right.
Often at least 6 hours a week. And they carry that on through high school and university.
Okay. How much time do they spend for English in high school, like junior high?
It depends, but I would say minimum 6 hours a week. Probably.
6 hours a week. Oh, okay.
Up to maybe 10 or 15 hours.
All right.
Yeah, they're very focused on pronunciation and grammar and both speaking and writing.
All right.
At my last school, I taught essay writing and novel reading to elementary school kids.
Okay.
So they would have to write 2 or 3 pages
Even elementary students?
Yes.
Oh, really?
8-year-old.
How about they also excel speaking?
Yes. Yeah.
Because here in Japan, like students excel like writing and listening, but not speaking.
Right. So, and that's been kind of a new trend in Korea over the last 10 years or so, maybe 15. So many of my classes, we would have a writing component, but then we would also do things like debate and speeches and things like that to practice speaking.
How did you teach?
How did I teach?
Yes.
A lot of different ways. So I worked at 6 different schools in my time there, and each one had a slightly different system.
Okay.
At the last school, which was my favorite, we had a combination of things. We used American public school textbooks for our reading classes and our grammar. And then we had one class that was a combination novel reading and essay writing. So every 2 weeks they would read a novel and write 3 essays about that novel.
All right.
Revolving around summarizing the novel, themes, and then they'd pick one of the specific themes that they talked about in the second essay and expand on that.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Have you taught Japanese?
Not broadly. I go to an English cafe,
Okay.
and there we just kind of practice speaking. So it's not really teaching. It's just kind
Just
of
like having a conversation.
yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, what's your major?
My major was literature,
Literature.
and anthropology.
Okay. What do you do? Like, what are you studying?
So in literature, I studied a lot of different things. I did some Russian literature. I did Creole literature, which is kind of Caribbean island nations and some West African nations.
Okay.
I studied some Shakespearean literature, just a lot of different areas.
Really? What major did you choose that course?
Well, I always enjoyed reading. From an early age, maybe second grade, I started reading novels and things like that, and always just really enjoyed it. And it was really helpful for me to understanding the world, because I think novels allow you to put yourself in another person's place and see through their perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important for life. So that's why I chose that.
So you graduated university in America
Yeah.
first. So what's the differences like Japanese university and American university?
Well, it's hard to say because as far as I know, my university program here at the University of Tokyo is very different than most.
Okay.
We don't have many Japanese students. I think out of 60 students, we only have 5 Japanese.
Okay.
And there's no one culture that's very dominant. It's very mixed with everyone. But overall, I would say maybe classroom techniques between teachers is one thing I've noticed that's very different. Most of my American teachers, they were very focused on discussion and interaction with students, where Japanese professors are very unidirectional.
Yeah. In Japan, like whenever.
Even I think many of my professors try to add that into their lectures, but because they don't have experience in it, or maybe they don't understand it because they never experienced it as students,
Okay.
it comes off as maybe a little awkward.
Yeah. So what's the difficulty living here in Japan?
Well, because I don't speak any Japanese, anytime I have to do paperwork,
Okay.
it's very, so anything to do with the bank or my apartment or utilities, that's the most difficult thing.
Yeah, probably that's common.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody told me that that's the most difficult part. What do you want to do the most in Japan?
What do I want to do the most? I think soaking up Japanese cultural ideas, because I think Japan has a very different way of doing things than many Western countries, America in particular. And I think any culture has ways in which they get stuck in their own ideology. So both America and Japan are perhaps guilty of that. So by absorbing both those ideas and trying to combine them, so I think that's very helpful to me in what I'm studying at university. So yeah, that's what I hope to do. So I think the Japanese perspective on things like city planning and just maybe government interaction, the central government has a very strong role, but also they're very interested in protecting all of their citizens, and sometimes U.S. perspective is not the same. So